It's a pleasure to be here today at the 2023 Governance, Risk and Compliance Baird Showcase. And it's a real pleasure to have with me Ben Dorks from Ideagen. Ben, I'm going to hand to you now to do a bit of an introduction, and obviously we're going to come into talk about some topics which are relevant within the environment today. Over to you.
Thanks, Justin. My name is Ben Dorks. I'm a Chief Executive of Ideagen Group, where I've been in post now since 2018, and having moved from the public markets, where we were on the AIM market since 2012, through to a P2P, which we did last year with HG. Ideagen, I think we say that our software and services support the sort of quiet voices and safe hands that protect the world. We help organisations solve complex quality, risk, audit, EHS, collaboration and compliance challenges in those regulated, high compliance industries such as aviation, life sciences, healthcare, financial services and manufacturing. I think at the end of every process or product, especially in the sight of compliance, there's a person, and we never try and lose sight of that. So whether it's a sort of seamless, frictionless collaboration that gets a medicine to patients faster, or an environmental health and safety solution that's quick and easy to embed within your organisation and give those organisations a thorough understanding of how they can better protect their workforce, to a quality management system that sort of digitally tracks an entire supply chain, ensuring that the food on our tables is safe to eat, farm to fork. Ideagen are a trusted provider for over 13,500 organisations globally, and we continue to grow and invest into our products for the future.
Well, Ben, thanks for the intro. It's really helpful background and context. Thinking through the current macro environment, obviously it's been pretty choppy waters for some time out there, and then more recently we've had obviously things like inflation. There's been a ton of supply chain disruption, over the last couple of years for various reasons, and then still today we've got a number of recessionary indicators hanging over the top of us. How's that sort of impacting growth and uptake of your solutions in general?
I think it was Oscar Wilde who said, the only certainties in life are death, taxes, and in my world, regulation. So, as the world continues to evolve, we see ever more complex challenges for our customers, with ever more, regulation, whether that's international or national or specific industry regulations. Our customers are faced with ever more complex requirements. So demand for us continues to be really, really strong. That's resulting in actually our best ever year in terms of our bookings this year, and revenue growth is being maintained. So although I think our customers are feeling the pinch in some of those areas, you still have to comply. You still have to ensure that quality or health and safety, that risk management environment is embedded into the DNA of your organisation. So although the customers are feeling the pinch, I think we're very fortunate just in that we've managed to rise above that, and we're still viewed very much as a mission critical purchase for many of our customers.
And is that things like the supply chain piece? We obviously had COVID. You've had things like obviously the war in Ukraine. Has that led to sort of an increased focus around supply chain sort of assurance, single point of failure, and then driving effectively solution sales for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the focus on the supply chain over the last 15 to 18 months has been extraordinary. Something that people would say, it's important to us, has suddenly got to the top of the agenda and has the focus of the C-suite. Whether that's regulatory pressures such as the new act that's been enforced into Germany, or just the natural understanding of what's going on in your supply chain in these very strange economic times. All of that's having an impact. I think coupled with that, we did a recent study on quality, and supply chains was one of those questions. And it was actually startling that people were able to talk very specifically about historic quality incidents. So, for example, the horse meat in your Findus. 60% of 18 to 24-year-olds were able to remember that event, and that's extraordinary considering they weren't even alive. So actually those impacts of supply chain have huge reputational as well as financial impacts on the organisation. I think that's what we think that's been recognised, especially now that the supply chain is very much on the on the chief executive's desk.
Interesting. You mentioned things like the German situation and some of the new laws that were introduced there from the start of, I think it was January of this year. When you think about globalization and how, that sort of divergence between different regulatory requirements in different regions, how is that impacting kind of you as a vendor and how you're looking at the market and how you're going after it?
And that's a great question, because I think one of the biggest challenges that we have as a regulation and compliance software vendor is actually understanding the implications across those multiple geographies. And if we take something like the aviation industry, where you have to manage against those international standards, not just from where your base is and where you originate to, but also where you are flying to. You may be crossing 2 or 3 international standards, none of which are quite exactly the same. Every time you board an aircraft, and I think what we see is there is a common golden thread between those standards. And certainly as an organisation, we have a really big focus on product management and the domain experts that support that product management to enable our customers to be confident that we're able to comply with all of the geographical regulations, regardless of where their business is based, but also the customers that they are dealing with. And I think the expectation, certainly looking at the German Supply Chain Act, is that is something that will be spread throughout Europe, although we expect different variations between the different economies, as is natural, and also into North America over time as well.
So do you sort of see if you can get, I don't know, maybe not first mover advantage, but if you can play in that German market, understand that regulation, you can then also play in the export of that regulation into other parts, whether that's French, Benelux, Spain, et cetera. Is that part of the strategy for Ideagen around, say, the let's call it the export of that German regulation into broader markets?
Without giving too much away of what we're going to be doing in the future, I think we're certainly excited by the possibilities of the European footprint that the sort of German first mover creates, and we see that being naturally exported into the other European countries, and also because of some of the things that asks for. Actually, we think that it will grow and develop into Asia and North America over time as well.
And when you think about then solutions relative to those clients, and there's that concept between, say, like a point solution or an enterprise suite, sort of the soup to nuts proposition, which when you look at your client base, which clients are sort of prioritizing more the one-stop shop enterprise, best of suite, or point solutions, kind of best of breed? And does that also change kind of geographically in terms of the state and development of the markets which you're serving?
I think lots of our customers are still buying point solutions that enable them to solve very specific activities. We are very focused on the upsell and cross-sell then within those organizations, joining together that golden thread of information and data. We all know that poor health and safety records have a direct impact on quality, that absolutely affects your customer outcomes and the reputation amongst it, as does your supply chain. Being not unable to audit effectively what's going on within your organization and understand the impact of risk on that organization, and how you collaborate amongst your wider economy. All of that has, a golden thread that runs through the middle of it that says, if you do these things well, then you are a better business. If you can incorporate that into the DNA of your organization, you are a better business. And so for us, it's all about working on those best of breed solutions and recognizing still that that is what's driving demand. I think what's really exciting is that there's no doubts this is being raised up to the C-suite. And once you start to add in things like being able to understand the enterprise risk and the model in which you work, then that starts to become C-suite. Probably the best example of that is we did some work with Admiral Insurance, and before they actually had a sort of coronavirus on their wrists, obviously not called coronavirus at the time, but they identified that in a major pandemic that they would need everybody to work from home. So as soon as, and they modelled out what therefore they would need to do. So as soon as coronavirus sort of became even slightly prevalent, they placed an order for 2,000 laptops to enable their people to work from home. So while everybody else was struggling around to find a laptop, their delivery got made in the 10 days. Everybody else had to wait 5 months, and they were able to react very, very quickly because they had a great risk environment supported by the C-suite that realized that, not just about compliance, but understanding that great quality and looking after their people would deliver better product to their end users. And I think that's a great example of how you can join all of this together very, very effectively.
That is a really interesting example. How much how demonstrable is sort of the uplift in quality from your clients when they install an Ideagen sort of solution? Do you see a lot of clients effectively track and measure, certain KPIs around the organization to sort of evidence the value in the solution?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the outcomes are very, very measurable. Whether if you're an engineering company and you are measuring every 10th part that's coming off your production line, and 1 out of every 10 of those is poor, and you're able to prove that by using things like the quality manufacturing tools that we have to do things like the first article inspection reports, which is part of the aerospace certification process. If you're able to sort of join the dots together and actually now you've only got 1 out of every 30 test units failing, it's a very measurable financial impact on the improvement in quality. The same within our healthcare environments, where you're able to actually look at the qualitative against the quantitative and really understand the impact of having very strong documented processes and procedures, and also against the repeats, because ultimately a quality system is all about learning from what you've done wrong and making sure that you're able to improve and not do it again. And very similar to the health and safety environment is to ensure that we don't have repeat offenders. And you can very easily see the demonstrable outcomes of that. And that really supports the value and outcome justification of why people implement these systems.
Are you able to then also provide views on benchmarking? When you look down sort of either certain sizes of companies or industry sort of end markets and start to sort of say to people, look, your record, how did your record in these areas sort of compare to your group of competitors? Is benchmarking part of the service proposition that people are looking for or the insight that they're after?
So benchmarking is something that we do in a couple of very narrow swim lanes at the moment, where we anonymize the data, and they're able to share a subset of information, and they can compare where they sit on that line against the rest of our customer base. We do provide insights against the customer data we collect on a sort of, again, very much on an anonymized basis. Part of our medium-term objective is absolutely, Justin, is to be able to sort of draw all of that together and provide real data insights. And the AI investment we've made over the last 18 months is really to try and bring that into a predictive analytics package that's saying, based upon what's happening within your organization, we can see that on the data trends that you're currently following, that this is likely to happen in 3 to 6 months' time unless you do something about it.
So are you seeing then appetite, I imagine within some of your customers that are trying to get a little bit more preemptive on issues than reactive to once they've arisen, just given some of the insights, as you said, if you can look forward and predict potential issues on the horizon, sounds like clients are starting to look a bit further forward versus just respond to incidences as they happen.
I think that's the natural evolution of the regulatory and compliance markets, that what was, and let's be very honest and frank about it, what was a tick box exercise maybe a decade ago, where organizations would do it because they had to do it. We're certainly seeing now that organizations are doing it because they know that it delivers a better outcome for their customers and for their core business activity. And there is definitely a set of customers now that know that actually, those businesses that deliver high levels of and high standards of regulation and compliance are better organizations and work more effectively and more sustainably, and it has a real impact on their top line, their bottom line, but also their customers' perception of that business as well.
And when you wrap that all together in the sort of point solution versus the suite solution in the different parts of the market, how does that impact your kind of go-to-market, and to what extent effectively your R&D and your sort of solutions development?
So the way, we are a buy and build. We acquire multiple organizations per year. What we do is we create a common UI and UX over the top, so that our customers have a feeling that they're using one solution while retaining the intelligence and capabilities of the acquisitions that we buy, and then creating an Ideagen common service architecture at the bottom that uses single sign-on, identity authentication, single licensing capability, and I think most importantly that single BI and reporting. And as I said, what that's really doing is enabling organizations to see the correlations between poor health and safety and poor levels of quality, whether that's, you can say the same around the environmental impact and those different geographies and how they're performing versus those that are doing great. And you can start to join that data together. And that is what provides real insights to that organization. If you then mix that with the AI capabilities to say that this is where you are and this is how you compare against your peers, and based upon your data, this is going to happen, then we believe certainly that organizations will see real value in that, continue to see real value in that, and that supports the growth objectives of Ideagen.
Ben, it's been really interesting. I want to thank you for your time today and partaking in the 2023 Baird Governance, Risk and Compliance Showcase. Again, thank you very much for your participation. It's really appreciated.
Thank you very much for the invite, Justin. It's been great talking to you as always.